Welcome back to Sandstone Eco Zoo. We've been hard at work over the last few weeks on this massive building, and I'm happy to say we'll finally be completing it in today's episode with the addition of some Tasmanian devils. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this relatively short speed build along with a full night house tour at the end. Hey everyone, Sparrow here. Thanks for joining me for the final episode of this big project. Probably the largest building I've built in Planet Zoo, or at least the one involving the most animals, 4 habitat species, and 1 walkthrough exhibit. Since this is the last enclosure in here, it will be quite a bit of copy-pasting from other areas of the night house. The walls will borrow from the wombat enclosure, though I do end up making them quite a bit taller, seeing as Tasmanian devils are carnivorous and they are for some reason jumping from even the tiniest of boulders up onto the wall and escaping their enclosure. So we obviously can't have that. We're also going to steal some of these faux rocks from the platypus enclosure to close up the gap on the other side of the restroom hut. Throw in a bunch of dynamic mossy rocks there as well to break things up, and then we're going to get the habitat barrier in so that our animals can be delivered and we know exactly how much traversable area they have. The exterior of the enclosure is going to use the same mesh and log fence as the wombats as well, and if you didn't notice it in the wombat video, you can recolor the steel mesh. Yes, some of the in-game barriers are also FlexiColor. I got quite a few comments on that. So now you know. This is the part where I realized the fence was too low and the devils could escape into the night house, so I just fiddled around with that to raise it up. I believe I ended up raising it even more later on. These things were just hell-bent on escaping their enclosure. Some terrain edits around the edge to make sure the dirt isn't cutting into the flooring on the other side of the barrier, and then it's time to fill in the habitat. I placed down 3 main items first: the burrow, the feeding platform, and the water pipe. Not only because the animals need them to be happy, but also because I find it easier to work around these larger enrichment and feeding items, as opposed to planting up an enclosure and then finding a space where they fit. The water pipe is going to go in the back corner, and I decided to create a cave around it, just to give the Tasmanian devils a bit more coverage, a place to retreat if they're feeling overwhelmed. And then I'll do a bunch more rock work all around the enclosure. The rubbing pad in the back I also placed early on because their accessibility can sometimes be tricky, especially if you're putting rocks around them. Here you'll also be able to see the many times I checked the heat map, because apparently the animals could jump from the rock onto the top of the wall. Which is very curious because Tasmanian devils are not particularly good at jumping or digging, but they are quite fast, which is probably why cartoons depict them as tornadoes. They can run at 24 kilometers per hour for up to an hour straight, are incredible swimmers, and can also climb trees. That's what we call a triple threat. Alright, on to planting. I did a lot of sightline work here because we have 3 separate viewing windows, a tiny one on the side, a double one on the front, and then a larger one near the restrooms. So the little one, I wanted guests to just get a peek into the enclosure through the branches of this cabbage tree, with a small portion of the burrow entrance visible. The burrow will be more easily observed through the second window, and the final viewing window provides a great view of the feeding platform, rubbing pad, and the animal door to the habitat exterior. As with the wombat enclosure, we'll be adding plenty of tropical plants inside and more temperate and grassland varieties outdoors. Thank you once again to that Aussie bloke for all of the advice and answering all of my questions. He suggested lots of dense coverage for these animals with a few pace trails winding through, as well as lots of fallen branches and ground cover so they can disappear when they want to. The exterior will be more sparse because of the grassland climate SEZ is set in, but many zoos keep their Tasmanian devils in sparse outdoor enclosures as well, so it's especially nice that we get to do both for them here. To make this enclosure different from the others, I also wanted to include these Australian decorative logs. Australia has an incredible Indigenous history, which is partially being incorporated into this build with the rammed earth construction technique on the outside of the building, but I wanted to bring more of that into the enclosures as well. So I'll add a few of these in the Tassie enclosure, and you can probably also spot some fallen driftwood pieces amongst the foliage as well. We'll be giving another nod to the Indigenous community later on. Finally, I'm going to fill up the wall space with some more of our planted panels, add some custom signage to this large divider between the viewing windows, put up our custom SUZ signage, add some lighting, and the interior is complete. The exterior is going to be a medley of temperate rocks, grassland rock piles created by the wonderful Caesar Creates, and some temperate and grassland plants. It was quite difficult finding trees that were the right size. Many of them are absolutely stunning, but way too tall and dwarfed the building entirely. So some silver ferns and maple trees it is, along with cabbage trees, wattle bushes, and triodia grass for the mid-height plants, and way too much grass and spiny-headed matrush for our ground cover. I always like to have 3 levels of plants because I find it makes the composition a bit more harmonious and you can draw the eye to certain areas with differing heights. So tall, medium, and short plants within a foliage palette are an absolute must for me. Bringing the rocks all the way around the fence line, just like with the wombat enclosure, and then I'm going to quickly build a snack shack because I don't believe we have any food or water options other than the pit stop by the quokka enclosure and the ice cream truck by the playground. This shack will match the restroom design on the inside of the night house, lots of woven bark and driftwood beams. The green works really nicely with the coloration of the enclosure out here as well, a thatched roof, and then a sign, Aussie Eats. Which, speaking of eating, here's another fun Tasmanian devil fact for you. They can open their jaws up to 80 degrees and can crush bone in a single bite. They don't generally attack humans but will defend themselves if provoked, so remember to respect nature in all of its forms. And that's it, we're finally done. Let's tour the Mimih Night House. But first, what is a Mimih? Mimi's are fairy-like spirits in the folklore of the indigenous peoples of northern Australia. They're depicted as tall, slender beings and are rumored to live in shady rock chasms in Arnhem Land. These spirits also brought to humankind the knowledge of painting, which is an important aspect of indigenous culture, and the skills of survival, such as hunting, cooking, and harnessing fire. They're revered as guardians of the natural world, possessing intimate knowledge of the animals, plants, and sacred sites, maintaining balance between the physical and spiritual realms. Thank you once more to Severin Rasmussen for that amazing name suggestion. Now onto the tour. Here we are right outside of the night house. We're going to take a walk through first, and then we'll focus on the exterior enclosures. So this is the main entrance, pretty low ceiling. We have some hinges and doorknobs and things on the ceiling to look like stars. We have some pictures of all of our night house residents on the side walls, plus our beautiful tree in the center. This is the name of our night house. And then we also have some disclaimers like no food or drink, no flash photography, and then also quiet please, because all the animals in here are quite sensitive to noise. So here's our first glimpse inside. I'm very happy with the way this tree turned out. The ceiling looks super good with all of these stars. And then we have some planters on the sides. Here again we have our special thanks to that Aussie bloke, our conservation specialist, and Severin Rasmussen, our marketing coordinator. And this night house is sponsored by the Gunter's Gaming Corner Discord, so make sure you check out the community. There will be a link in the description below. Awesome community, couldn't have done it without them. This is one heck of a build, let's just say that. All right, let's check out the burrow. So as we walk down underneath this tree, we have some screens that show us the burrows of the kiwi, the wombat, and the platypus. Unfortunately, none of them seem to be in their burrows right now, but we are also underground, so it gives it a nice connection to the guests. Let's head this way first to our newest enclosure. This is the Tasmanian Devil enclosure. First viewing window, we have a enrichment item and then just a tiny glimpse of the burrow through the cabbage tree there. Of course, some custom signage. And then we get a better view of the burrow from here, as well as our indigenous art pieces. Here is our custom sign for the Tasmanian Devils. Again, I made these walls slightly taller because they could still jump out for whatever reason. And then here's our big viewing window, which gives us a good view of the feeding platform, the rubbing pad at the back, and then the animal door there. So the cave is quite hidden from view. You can kind of see it from here, but hopefully they have a little bit more shelter over there. Here is our restroom, and then on the opposite side we get a view of the platypus enclosure. They do like coming up here to eat the frozen fish, which is really nice. We have some more custom signage, and then here we can just see them chilling in front of the waterfall. So cute. I love them so much. Of course, we also have some more signage, a little view of some of the plants in there. And here we have our spectacled flying fox walkthrough that is not actually a walkthrough, but you can still see them flitting about in there. There are quite a few. I think they have had babies since they've been put in here. So we should be able to see a few of them flying around. All right, on to the kiwi enclosure. Here we get a close-up view of the termite mound, kind of a centerpiece of this window. We also get more views of their forage enrichment and their burrow entrance through here. The ceiling is quite low in this one to give it a kind of cozy feeling, make it feel a little bit less noisy. The plants are also quite low to the ground. All right, wombats. So here we have a burrow, a pretend burrow for them, so that you can see what they look like when they're all curled up in their burrows. And then through here we have the actual burrow entrance for them. And a nice low wall, so hopefully no one jumps over it. Super tropical in here. We're going to take a tour of the outside in just a second, but first let's check out the backstage area because I know a lot of people were very excited about me building that. Here is the keeper entrance to the flying fox enclosure. And then through here, we have our backstage. So over this way, we have our kiwi. This is our delivery door. So if we step through here, we see the backstage parking lot. We have a maintenance vehicle. That's where we get access. We have our electrical panel, of course. Some water filtration systems, more things just stacked up on the sides. This over here is a storage room. All of the cables running along the walls. And then back here is our platypus enclosure. We have their indoor pool and then their indoor land area. Just over here. Let's better look at the filtration system from the other side. We have our temperature regulator and our filtration. And that's basically it. If you want to see this be built, do check out the platypus episode. That was the backstage episode of the Night House. But otherwise, we're going to continue on to the exterior habitats. So both the wombat and the Tasmanian devil have enclosures that are both indoor and outdoor, which I've been told is how they are commonly kept, at least wombats. So wombats can be indoors or outdoors. Tasmanian devils can be indoors or outdoors as well. This entrance has a few more decals to spice it up a little. Tasmanian devils are usually indoor or outdoor, but I decided why not just do both? It gives them a little bit more space. We can have more fun with the foliage. Tasmanian devils are quite endangered because of devil facial tumor disease. I think it's called devil facial tumor disease. Yeah, that sounds right. Basically, they just have a massive tumor on their face and then that prevents them from eating, which means that unfortunately they die. And it is a very big epidemic So the more people who know about it, the more we can do for conservation for this amazing species. There's not very many of them left, and I would hate to see a species die out in my lifetime. This is the wombat outdoor enclosure. And over here we have the Tasmanian devils. These Oceania statues are super cute. I love them so much. A lot of the animals have not made an appearance today, but that tracks for a zoo. I did end up giving them a little pool here so that that water jet would feel a little bit more situated. And I mean, they have so much room that it didn't really matter. Here we have our snack shack, Aussie Eats. And as we continue around this way, that's how the Tassies get into this outdoor section. Lots of long grass, lots of places for them to hide. I'm really, really happy with the fact that we're done with this, but also really happy with the way it turned out. Thank you to everyone who supported this project. Big shout out to That Aussie Bloke and Severin Rasmussen once more for all of their help. If you'd like to hang out with me more often, do check the description for a link to Gunter's Gaming Corner. That's where I like to hang out most of the time. Thank you so much for watching, for leaving a comment and a like, and possibly subscribing, and I will see you next time. Bye.